Hello, good evening and welcome to the holiday edition of Business Live. Coming up in this bulletin, taxes from retail sales stay flat at around 239 million cedis for each month since the beginning of this year, as some businesses complain of a 70% decline in sales. We'll hear from them shortly. Also in this bulletin, Ghana's economy is said to be losing more than $300 million due to the negative impact of climate change on the country. We'll be finding out how we can address this issue. We are live with a partner in charge of life sciences and healthcare leader at Deloitte Africa. Plus, gold prices inch close to $4,000 an ounce as most investors turn to the precious metal due to global economic uncertainties, but mining firms in Ghana say they are not benefiting that much. We have details of this and more coming your way all in a moment. Please stay. Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojobaka, and looking at our stories. Gold prices are getting closer to $4,000 an ounce on the international market. It follows current global uncertainties influenced by developments in the US and President Trump's economic measures. We have more for you in this Business Desk report.
For some, the development could come as good news for Ghana in terms of total export earnings. New data from the Bank of Ghana shows that Ghana's total export earnings from the precious metal went up significantly from August last year to $11 billion in August this year. There are even projections by American investment bank Goldman Sachs that the price of gold could hit $5,000 an ounce before the close of this year. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiema, during a recent Monetary Policy Committee media engagement, noted that Ghana's strong external position and reserves has been influenced by improved gold exports and earnings. Now, if this trend should continue, that could go a long way to increase Ghana's reserves, which is currently at around $10.7 billion, a development that could go a long way to put the Bank of Ghana in a strong position to support the local currency.
Now, taxes from retail sales in the country have not witnessed much improvement since the beginning of this year. That's a verdict one may reach after going through the fresh economic data from the Bank of Ghana. Here's more.
November last year, the country mobilized almost 500 million cedis in taxes from retail sales by businesses in Ghana. However, that amount has been declining since the beginning of this year. Taxes mobilized from business has stayed flat at a little over 200 million cedis for the past 7 months of this year. It is not clear for what had been the driver of this year's decline. But the release of this data is coming at a time that the Food and Beverage Association has revealed sales had declined by more than 70% since the beginning of this year. Some of these businesses have linked it to the liquidity squeeze by the Bank of Ghana as it moves to check inflation, which has affected purchasing power of most consumers. Others have also argued government move to check spending is also affecting cash flow in the country of most individuals. Some are worried that if this should persist, one is not sure about the impact of total revenue and tax collections by the end of this year. Now, the good news is that collections from VAT was doing well. VAT collections have been going up each month since the beginning of this year, July numbers standing at 1.9 billion cedis.
All right, so let's hear from the business community on the back of this story. John Awuni is the chairman of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much, sir, for making time to join us here on Business Live. And I want to know what you make of this data by the Bank of Ghana, which shows that sales by way of taxes, have not been doing well since the beginning of this year. And how do we reconcile that with a decline in sales by your members?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. I think that last 2 weeks or so, I came out with a press release that the tariff hikes by the PURC was going to affect businesses or exacerbate the situation of Ghanaian businesses because sales in the market had dropped by as much as 70%. And I'm so happy that the Bank of Ghana has also come now to confirm that indeed my statement is right, because it appears that everything is at a standstill in the market. And this is for the food and beverages sector. And we all know that the food is a necessity. So if you go into the market and you open your restaurant, you open your hotel, you display bags of rice, sugar, drinks, and all that. And at the end of the day, nothing is sold. And this is food, a necessity. People must eat in order to live. So if this is really the situation, then my question is, what is happening to the non-food sector? So this is the reality of it, and businesses are really under serious pressure because most of the goods that are in the market are on credit, supplier's credit, and you are required to turn these stocks over as quick as possible in order to be able to meet the demands of your suppliers. More especially when we have the cedi sliding or depreciating currently against the US dollar. You cannot afford but to ensure that your stocks turn over quickly so that you can be able to meet deadlines of your suppliers. But unfortunately, this has not been the situation in the market, and I am not surprised that reports from the GRA or information from the GRA also indicates that GRA are unable to meet their targets. Because if you are not selling, that means that your VAT filings are going to be very, very, very low. And this is going to affect the targets of the GRA people. And not that something else is happening, but just that people are not buying. And if people are not buying, if you used to file like 100,000 cedis or 1 million cedis VAT every month, and then you always end up selling like 30% of it, like 300,000, you file accordingly. And that is going to impact very negatively on the finances of the country. And this is the major reason why I came out very strongly and I said that, in fact, the timing of the tariff hikes is ill. In fact, the tariff hikes is going to exacerbate the woes of businesses and indeed particularly industry, because as it is, the cost of production, the cost of electricity production, the cost of water in the local industry is already extremely very high. And so if you come out to talk about it, you don't gauge the situation. You don't do a research of the market situation and just come out and say that, well, it is time for us to increase tariffs. So let's go ahead and increase tariffs, because after all, anytime we increase the tariffs, Ghanaians have nothing to say, they will just pay. I don't think that that's the way the country should be run. Sometime before some of these things come out, we should be able to look at national security information, because we have the economic, I believe we have economic department of the national security ministry, where they will have to gather data of the situation on the ground to know whether one tax or the other will impact positively or negatively on the country. And indeed, I would say that the taxes are not helping, and because there's generally low demand, people don't have money. When you ask, they say no money, no money. So you go and open your shop, the whole day you sell nothing and you go home. So I can confirm very strongly that yes, what I said and what the Bank of Ghana has said, it just come to confirm what I have said.
That's fine.
And so I am a research person. I just don't come out normally and throw data about or just say anything for selfish gains.
John,
but I do my
appreciate that.
I do really very well. And
we appreciate
situation is
that.
very, very serious.
But let's make progress with this. So how can we deal with the challenge? Yes, you've mentioned that the increase of tariffs, like you mentioned, is one of the major challenges which ought to be addressed. But going forward, I know you've had several engagements with the PURC on that matter. How far have you gone with that?
Well, I told the PURC that indeed the tariff hikes is very, very, very unnecessary, because I sat throughout the period of presentations, the utilities, Ghana Gas, ECG, Water Company, Enclave Power, and in general, the general utility, the VRA, they all did their presentations, brilliant presentations, brilliant submissions. But my question was exactly that, what new have these people said? And now the answer is that they said nothing new in all their presentations, because Each time there is a opportunity for, they come in and request for tariff increment. They come in that, oh, let us increase the tariffs so that we can meet our production costs and we can be more efficient. And government after government, year after year, ECG, the water company, and the general utilities have never been efficient. So when will they be efficient? And so my concern generally was that, yes, they have brilliant submissions, but it's the same Asian old story. So I encouraged and I told the PURC, as representing the food and beverage sector, I called on the PURC to tell ECG and the general utilities to go back and do their homework well. In law, it is said that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. And I don't think that ECG people and the utilities come with clean hands.
All right, John.
They are riddled with corruption. They are riddled with theft. They are riddled with inflation of contracts. They are riddled with complete inefficiency. And let me at this point pause and say that I have prepared a very well-researched document that I will present as by way of petition to His Excellency the President.
That's
tomorrow.
fine. That's fine.
And I'll be organizing a press conference also tomorrow on the same line to explain why Ghanaians do not pay higher tariffs and to also explain why there is a need for efficiency first. Because ECG and the...
All right, John, we'll come back to you tomorrow to fill us in all that you have on your paper so that we will speak to the authorities on the back of that. But John Awuni, you heard, is the chairman of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, speaking to us on the subject matter. We want to shift focus to other stories you are following up for you because the Ghanaian economy is said to be losing more than $300 million every year due to the negative impact of climate change. So how do we get around this challenge? Accounting firm Deloitte is holding a webinar on the strategic intersection of climate and agriculture as well as healthcare in Ghana. Let's get onto Zoom and speak with the partner in charge of life sciences and healthcare leader at Deloitte Africa, Wesley Solomon. Thank you so much, Wesley, for joining us here on Business Live. And essentially, we want to understand what are the looming consequences of climate change on healthcare and agriculture in Ghana like you are proposing.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And we're looking forward to a very, very interesting webinar tomorrow. Essentially, the first thing we have to notice is that there is direct influence of climate change and indirect influences of climate change. So the direct influences, you would think about crops that cannot grow. But we are more interested in the softer issues in terms of the intersection. So indirect, an example of it would be the agricultural sector employs approximately 40% of Ghanaians. What is the indirect consequence of that? During harvest season, Ghanaians move out of the cities, back into the fields, and they decongest the cities. That allows the cities to breathe. And when the cities breathe, the health consequence of the cities actually improve. I mean, it's a chance for the water and sanitation to be improved. It's a chance to have the supply chains replenished, etc. And that's a softer issue. So imagine this. Climate change causes the agricultural sector to come to almost a complete halt in Ghana, even if it's for 2 months. People are not leaving the cities anymore. And when they're working out in the fields on the agricultural sector during harvest time, they're also eating. So if you look at your unemployment rate, it's one of the lowest in Africa, being around 4%. It's because the agricultural sector supports both from an economical point of view, but also the agricultural sector supports Ghanaians from a health perspective and food security, because you can eat while you are harvesting. So that's like a softer side of it and a bit of a teaser of tomorrow's webinar of saying, so, yeah.
And how can we address this issue of climate change when it comes to agriculture and healthcare in Ghana, for example?
The first one is measuring it and being prepared. So looking at predictive measures of if there's going to be flooding, what does that mean a year from now? How are we going to start preparing those communities to regrow their crops? How is government going to step in either for global aid, because global aid needs to come to the party and start saying, we will see that people will leave the farms to go to the cities. How can we be prepared? And then we protect the upstream effects of climate change. So the first one is measurement and really paying attention to it.
All right, Solomon. So quickly, if you can do this for me, can you share some perspective with us on the webinar tomorrow?
So the webinar tomorrow we're having our full climate scientist on board who's going to be speaking to the economy of Ghana. I mean, the amazing hydroelectricity and how this intersects with the GDP ability to pay for services and support. And John, I found your comments beautiful, by the way, and very interesting. But he will be coming with that perspective and really seeing how Ghana as a country is dependent on the climate and how they can become more resilient. And I will come in from the webinar from the perspective from your healthcare outcomes and saying, so what do we expect to improve and where do we need to make strategic investments?
Wesley Solomon, thank you so much for your time here on Business Live. It is with Deloitte Africa. You're still watching Business Live, the holiday edition. We are back with more. Hello again, welcome back to Business Live. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Zakaria Mumuni, has underscored the need to deepen financial literacy across all sectors of the economy. He believes that improved financial awareness will empower individuals and businesses to make informed decisions and contribute to economic stability. Dr. Mumuni made this call at the launch of official literacy books.
In the book titled Digital Financial Literacy, First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Zakaria Mumuni, emphasized that strengthening financial knowledge is key to empowering individuals and businesses to make sound financial decisions.
Now, from the statistics, it means that too many of our citizens are vulnerable to poor financial decisions, unsustainable debt, and painful losses that come with unregulated investment schemes. This is why the Bank of Ghana has consistently championed financial education through consumer protection guidelines, financial inclusion strategies, and our work with schools and communities. And this is one area where we have been working very assiduously to get people to speed on financial literacy issues.
Author for the book, Kusi Jokoto, explained the book aims to bridge knowledge gaps and promote greater financial inclusion, particularly in the digital space.
The underlying asset had a haircut. So your money, you can't get all. But the issue is, as Dr. Zakaria said, the financial literacy is not there. And these are people with MBAs, with all sorts of degrees. But they don't understand. They just move money. They say, if you put your money here, you'll get this. So they send money. As Dr. Zakaria was speaking, he mentioned about 68. This research was actually done by Standard & Poor, that 68% of Ghanaians are financially illiterate. So when we group ourselves over here, I'll say, let's say, more than half, or 70% of over here, we are not financially literate.
The Bank of Ghana, for instance, sees initiatives like this as part of its broader mandate to improve financial literacy, as it believes will inform citizens to make better economic choices when it comes to enhancing financial intermediation.
Government recorded more than 14 oversubscriptions of Treasury bills auctioned just a week after missing its target. And this is coming after yields were mixed on the yield curve. More in this report.
According to the auction results by the Bank of Ghana, the government received 3.44 billion Ghana cedis of the total bids, but accepted 3.01 billion Ghana cedis. A little over 74% of the bids came from the 91-day bill. About 2.58 billion Ghana cedis of the bids were tendered. The uptake was 2.57 billion Ghana cedis. For the 182-day bill, 613.8 million Ghana cedis of the bids were tendered. This was higher than the bids tendered last week. The bids accepted were estimated to the tune of 608.8 million Ghana cedis. Also, 250.4 million Ghana cedis of the bids were tendered for the 364-day bill. About 247.3 million Ghana cedis of the bids were accepted. Meanwhile, the yield on the 91-day bill increased by 3 basis points to 10.45%. However, that of the 182-day bill decreased to 12.36% from 12.41% the preceding week. Additionally, the yield on the 364-day bill decreased by 9 basis points to 12.88%.
And that's our package by way of Business Live. Do well to log on to myjoyonline.com/business for all the business news you need to know here in Ghana and beyond. I am Pius Kojobaka. Do enjoy the rest of your holiday. Bye.